heaven. Ever since the arrival of Adam and Eve, the war between good and evil had plagued this planet through human history. Dominance was their driving force, desires to control the world and everything in it. Evil has positioned itself into power by stirring man into giving in to his selfish desires. God would then send messengers to the world to turn humans away from the darkness and direct them towards the light. Some had their eyes opened. Others chose to stay blind. Now with the last days approaching, the forces of evil, better known as the Crucifix, have been building their strongest army ever, using symbols of truth and justice recognized the world over. Officers. However, like many times before, the kingdom of God has entered the recruitment phase. Angels have searched the globe for brave individuals worthy enough to represent heaven's army as the angelic warriors known as Angelites. From a New Mexico sheriff to a private detective from Brooklyn, the Angelites are a group of good souls with rough surfaces willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that justice is served, even at the cost of their own lives. With the very fabric of existence hanging in the balance, bear witness to the beginning of an epic war to save mankind, save the world, and to bury the Crucifix deep below the depths of hell once and for all. Hello everyone, and welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4, the legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. On this edition of Ralph Reads, I introduce a novel entitled Angelites, Body of Persons Empowered, written by Jan 11. This book has been copyrighted in 2011 by Richard Moran of Enero Once Incorporated, New York, New York. So get that quick snack and six-pack kickback, and let the reading commence. Myra, Richie, Tommy, thank you for inspiring me to ride this roller coaster in your unique ways. I love you all very much. For we are not fighting against flesh and bone enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. Therefore, put on every piece of God's armor so you will be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. Then, after the battle, you will still be standing firm. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12 and 13. Prelude. Bright ivory snow blanketed the mountainous landscape of Syracuse, New York, as gray clouds hovered in the sunless sky. Plow trucks plowed through the slippery roads. Locals got their legs swallowed in the waist-high snow as they marched through town, struggling to stay balanced. Rush hour hadn't quite started yet, but already the day was off to a busy start. Cruising down the snowy highway was Gina Vasquez, a cadet of the New York Police Academy, returning to campus from a weekend getaway at her parents' house in the Bronx. Besides being blessed with stunning good looks, she was athletically gifted. Chin-length ginger red hair with light brown eyes and toned physique. Although considered as the kid in her unit, the 20-year-old was mature for her age, never afraid to get her hands dirty, especially when it came to prevailing justice. She's definitely a morning person, approaching each day as another life lesson to be learned. Besides keeping a careful eye on the road, she was swaying her shoulders and enjoying a classic salsa song blasting out from the speakers, Pedro Navaja by Reuben Blades. Lucky for her, traffic was absent due to the wintry weather conditions. Therefore, a usual 6+ hour journey had been reduced to a 5-hour drive. Having a couple of hours to spare before her first class, Gina decided to stop and have some breakfast. After passing several packed Waffle Houses, she came across a small diner called Round the Clock. The parking lot looked empty, so she figured the wait wouldn't be too long. She parked close to the exit ramp and hopped over ice puddles like a game of hopscotch. The morning rush crowd might stampede through the doors at any moment. She hurried up the snowy steps, hoping to get a table right away, but as soon as she entered the diner, her worst-case scenario became a reality. A crowd of hungry people waiting to be seated. Hearing a passing waitress say it'd be about an hour wait, the cadet suddenly lost her appetite. As Gina was about to leave, she heard someone call out her name over the indistinct chatter. Looking through the sea of faces, she spotted Owen Law sitting alone in the booth, motioning for her to join him. Owen, also a police academy cadet, had a crush on Gina since orientation. Standing a little over 6 feet tall, he had a slim physique and a charming smile. His cleverness and athleticism made him a great officer in the making. However, his need to showboat has led instructors to question his passion for the job. Owen and Gina had 3 things in common. Puerto Rican ethnicity, both born and raised in the Bronx, and were the youngest rookies in their respective squads.
"What brings you out here so early?"
Gina asked as she approached the booth. "Waiting for you, of course," Owen kidded. Gina slid into the booth and laid her coat next to the window. A waitress came over with 2 glasses of water and placed them on a table. She then asked for their orders. Owen wanted a 3-cheese omelet with sausage and toast. Gina ordered blueberry pancakes and bacon.
"You've yet to answer my question, Mr. Law,"
Gina said. Owen shivered and answered, "I love it when you call me that." Gina just smirked while tapping her finger on the table.
"Okay, seriously. I went out for a run. Not the smartest move to be running in this blistery weather, and so far, may I add, besides the snowfall picking up, you'll be running back to campus on a full stomach. Know what that means? The next place you'll be running to is the bathroom."
"Ha ha 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 ha, you're a riot," chuckled Owen. "Just so you know, I didn't plan on jogging through this winter wonderland. I woke up at 5 this morning and a weird feeling came over me like I just needed to get out and do something. Spent 2 hours in the gym, but not even that tired me. So I ran around the campus. I still wasn't tired. In fact, I started feeling better than I did when I woke up. So then I ran down the road and continued onto the highway, and so on and so on. Now I'm here having breakfast with you. No journey is too great when one finds what he seeks."
"Oh God, you sound like a soap opera."
Gina sighed. "Yeah, it does sound kinda corny coming from a smooth chamaco like me, right? But I mean it." Gina smiled, taking a sip of water. "What about you? What brings you to this side of town so early?"
"Just coming back from spending the weekend at home. After having one of my mom's infamous Sunday dinners, I caught the itis. Too lazy to drive last night. Only operating on a few hours sleep, but I knew I could still get to class on time if I left home early enough. And with an hour to spare, I'd say I'm doing a pretty good job."
"Yeah, you must have been doing 80 on I-87.
"Something like that. But it was easy while driving down those empty roads. And luckily for me, the snowy conditions in the city weren't nearly as bad as they are up here."
A half hour had passed. Gina and Owen were enjoying their breakfast while chatting away at whatever subject came to mind. Then they started talking about their families, a subject Owen never liked to discuss. But since it was Gina who asked, he felt comfortable telling her the truth. Owen was an only child. Most of his life, he was raised by his mother, Karina Law. Childhood memories were bitter and full of vigor, uprooting from the grudge he held against his father for choosing his career over his family. Martial Law, born Manuel Lovado, served in the United States Army during the Vietnam War as a part of the 5th Infantry. He received plenty of medals for acts of bravery and heroism in the line of battle. After his tour ended, Marshall got with a few of his army buddies and worked as mercenaries for hire. With that decision came major consequences. Between his near-death experiences and constantly leaving home in the middle of the night, not returning for days, Karina became emotionally spent and filed for divorce. She believed that Marshall's reckless lifestyle would endanger the lives of her and their son. Marshall promised to explain everything once he was old enough to understand, but Owen was too angry to care. Gina's upbringing, however, was more inspiring. Her mother, Sienna Vasquez, was a distinguished officer for the NYPD, who years later entered the criminal law system. She then became the hottest prosecutor for the New York County's District Attorney's Office. After 30 years of service, she retired and moved to the Bronx suburbs with Raul, Gina's father, who retired from the U.S. Postal Service shortly after. Alexandra, Gina's younger sister, was a junior at Princeton University and labeled the genius of the family. At a glimpse, she could pass for Gina's twin, except she was a couple of inches shorter, had long brown hair, and wore round-rimmed glasses. "Alex wants to follow in your footsteps?" asked Owen.
Kind of.
Gina responded.
She wants to work for the FBI, which threw me for a loop. Not to say she can't handle it, but field agents have to be physically fit, you know?
I take it she's not a world-class athletic.
Far from it.
Gina laughed.
She's not a weakling, but graceful is something lacking when it comes to her with physical challenges. That's the part where we differ. Physically comes easier to me where she can face more cerebral challenges. With her brains, I thought she would follow my mother's path and study criminal law. Still, I know she will be an overnight success if she ever gets to the bureau. I'm so proud of her.
Owen held up his glass of orange juice and proclaimed, "Here's to us, one day celebrating her recruitment with a bottle of champagne."
Hear, hear.
They clinked their glasses together and took a drink while sticking their pinkies in the air. Snow continued to fall, piling up to knee level. Gina checked her watch and gasped at seeing that she now had 20 minutes to get to class. Owen left a generous tip on the table before walking to the cashier to pay the bill. Gazing at the continuous snowfall, Gina and Owen stood in front of the diner and zipped their coats up to their necks.
I'm sure those strong legs of yours will be able to handle another wintry workout,
Gina joked.
I won't hold you up, but thank you for breakfast. It really hit the spot.
Owen wasn't sure if she was serious as his lips slowly curled to a smirk.
I'm only kidding,
She giggled, showing perfect rows of ivory teeth between her full cheeks.
Of course I'll give you a ride back.
The cadets wrapped arms and carefully stepped down the front steps, which looked like beds of marshmallows. Gina found humor in watching Owen struggling to keep his balance as they hopscotched through the slushy parking lot.
If I see you slip and fall, I swear I'm gonna be laughing so hard,
She heckled. "Don't laugh too hard, baby," he interjected. "If I can get a hold of your coat, then best believe I'll be dragging you down with me." Owen's feet flew up in the air as he slipped on an ice patch and flipped down on his back. He looked like the letter X as he lied still, basking in a moment of embarrassment. Gina could hardly breathe from her ongoing hilarity, grasping on her stomach, unable to withstand the muscle cramps. She offered to help him up, but her laughter made it impossible to stand straight. Due to her lack of focus, however, Gina plunged into a huge slush puddle. Both her boots got soaked. "Ha ha!" Owen teased. "Go ahead, start laughing now! What goes around, comes around, baby!" Both cadets were red in the face, laughing until no sound came out of their mouths. Gina shook the ice chips off her boots as Owen rolled up to his feet. When they got to Gina's car, Owen tilted his head and gave an awkward eye to a gray, worn-down Cutlass Sierra. "I may be a fan of the old school," he said, "but this ride of yours might be going a bit overboard."
"Sorry, but my Benz is in the shop,"
she sarcastically snapped back. Gina unlocked the doors, and both she and Owen rushed inside.
"Yeah, I know it's an eyesore,"
she mentioned while turning the ignition key.
"Compared to that lousy town bus, though, this contraption is my best friend."
"Easy choice. You can die of old age waiting for that junkyard on wheels. But sincerely, I really do appreciate the ride. How about you let me take you out to eat to express my gratitude?"
"Technically, you just did that."
Gina smiled and winked. Wheels ground onto the thick snow as the car rolled down the exit ramp. She kept the speed at 15 miles per hour and pumped the brakes while merging onto the freeway. Snowflakes flew wildly in front of the windshield, nearly obscuring the view of the road ahead. Driving speedily behind them was a Kia Optima occupied by a group of impatient college kids. They cut into the opposite lane and honked their horn in annoyance as they sped past. Despite their rudeness, Gina slowed down, allowing them to re-enter the lane. She certainly didn't want anyone to get hurt, but before the kids could switch back to their lane, a plow truck emerged from the snow fog in front of them. The driver swerved at the last split second, but the snow plow still struck its back left side. The kids screamed at the top of their lungs as the vehicle spun out of control and crashed through the guardrail. Teens flew out from the back doors as the car tumbled down the rocky mountainside. It landed upside down near a cliff. High winds violently rocked it back and forth, inches away from falling over the edge. Scared out of his mind, the truck driver immediately pulled over and dispatched 911 for help. Gasping in fright, Gina stepped on the gas and sped toward the busted guardrail. Skidding onto the shoulder, she pressed the release button in the glove compartment as the trunk popped open. Both cadets raced around back and gathered some supplies, a first aid kit and climbing rope. "Over there!" Owen shouted and pointed at two teens barreling off the cliff. Gina followed the gray smoke coiling from the rocking vehicle. An orange glow illuminated from the windows.
"You go after the kids!"
instructed Gina.
"I'll check the car for trapped passengers!"
The cadets hurried down the snowy slope and then split up. Gina tossed the rope to Owen and sprinted towards the busted Optima. Despite slippery conditions, Owen ran down the snow like it was asphalt. Two teens, a male and a female, were seen hanging over the cliff, dangling like worms on a hook. Desperately, they yelled for help, but their words sounded mumbled due to their endless sobbing. Frostbite seeped into their bare fingers, weakening their grip on the ice-cold rock. Owen slid towards the edge and reached over to grab their wrists. "I got you!" he shouted as the teens expressed overwhelming gratitude. However, they accidentally peeked down at the long drop below, a field of blue-green evergreens poking out from a sea of white fog. They panicked. Kicking at the rocks and screaming for help, their constant wobbling made it difficult for Owen to hold them steady. "Reach up and grab on my arms!" Owen grunted. "We can't!" the teens hollered, too scared to even flinch a finger. "I can't stay like this forever! You gotta reach up, or else we'll all die!" Mustering enough bravery, the teens attempted to pull themselves up, tiptoeing against the mountainside for support. As the winds grew stronger, Owen felt his biceps burn like Olympic torches. Blustering snowflakes flew into his eyes, distorting his vision. His shoes began to slip along the icy surface. Pressure up against his ribs made it hard for him to yell to Gina for help. Owen gave one more pull and lifted the teens halfway, but his strength was gradually departing. These kids will die if he drops his arms now. Dozens of negative thoughts bombarded his head, criticizing his poor decision-making. But out of all the voices verbally bashing him, one voice could be heard over the rest, torturing him further. It came from the one man who he has despised since his childhood. His father.
You're no hero. You're no soldier. You became a cop because you're too weak to fight a war. You're a mama's boy. I'm not your enemy. I'm your excuse. Don't blame me for you becoming a loser.
Pain and fatigue instantly vanished. An overwhelming surge of energy unleashed him like a raging volcano. Screaming in anger, Owen astonishingly lifted the teens up from the cliff, throwing them a few feet back in the process. He then tumbled onto the slush, exhausted. Freezing ice pressed against his spine, pleasurably relieving the muscle cramps he felt in his back. "Are you okay?" he stuttered, rolling on his stomach to catch his breath. Choked up with gratefulness, the teens could only wipe their eyes and say, "Thank you." Unable to resist, Owen let his ego come into play. His lips pushed out to a confident grin as he replied, "No need to thank me. This is what I do." Meanwhile, Gina shielded her eyes from the buzzing white flakes as she approached the vehicular wreckage. She found an unconscious teen just a few yards away. Fearing the car may explode at any minute, she dragged him to a safe distance and then continued charging toward the car. Looking inside the foggy windows, Gina saw the driver still strapped to his seat, hanging upside down like a bat in a cave. Heads and limbs dangled like tinsel on a Christmas tree, but no movement was made on his own. Was he still alive? Was it worth her life to find out? Strong winds pushed the car closer to the edge. A matter of inches separated the sleeping kid from taking a day-long plunge into a wintry abyss. Gina pulled on the handles, but the doors wouldn't open. The violent tumble had sealed them shut. Like a football punter, she kicked at the rear passenger window. Glass shattered off her steel-toed boot.
"Can you hear me?"
she hollered, sticking her head inside the car. There was no response. She crawled headfirst through the broken window and reached for the teen's arm. He was too far away. As she climbed in further, the car shifted from the added weight. Making matters worse, sparks shot out from the radio, sparking awfully close to the gasoline-drenched dashboard. Sucking it up, refusing to turn back, Gina squeezed in between the front seats and crawled closer to the youngster. She pressed her feet down to keep the car balanced while reaching for the seatbelt button. Almost there. Two of her fingers touched the red button. Click. His body dropped onto the cold steel. Scraping sounds grew louder as the car tipped a bit further. Desperately, she wiggled back to the broken window while tugging the teen by his shirt. His massive-sized body was wedged between the seats and the armrest. Another frenzy of sparks erupted from the radio. Uh-oh. A burst of flames ignited by the driver's feet and then spread across the dashboard. It rapidly traveled towards the back seats. Then it engulfed the trunk and then ate its way towards the gas tank. Summoning every ounce of strength, Gina gave one strong pull and loosened the teen from between the seats. It felt like dragging sandbags in the desert as she pulled his dead weight closer to the opening. Scraping sounds grew louder as the car rocked over the cliff. By the skin of her teeth, Gina and the teen plopped onto the powdery snow. Thunderous sounds of tearing metal, crumbling rocks, and deafening bangs echoed down the mountainside. She checked the vital signs and blew a sigh of relief knowing that he was still alive. She looked across the snow and witnessed Owen helping the other teens to their feet. He nodded and waved at her. Completely spent, she nodded back and stuck up her thumb. Job well done. An hour later, both roadways were flooded with squad cars, ambulance trucks, and news vans. The shaken teens were being treated for their injuries while the driver had been carried away on a gurney wearing a neck brace. His condition remained stable. Town Sheriff Jimmy Van Nash commended the two young cadets for their heroic acts of bravery.
"The police force is sure lucky to have you two dashing young officers like yourselves,"
he said with a heavy country accent. Police Academy instructor Lieutenant Jacqueline Greer pushed through the sea of spectators to check on her cadets. She looked at Gina's ragged condition and said,
"You look like hell, Vasquez. Now I see why you didn't show up for class this morning." "Yes, ma'am,"
Gina replied.
"Does this mean I'm getting thrown out?" "Don't be silly, cadet. I've done a lot worse during my training, quiet as kept. You have the same tenacity as your mother, that same never-say-die attitude. That kind of quality cannot be taught. Good job." "Thank you, ma'am."
Lieutenant Greer turned to Owen and said,
"How you holding up, Law?"
Being the show-off, Owen folded his arms and answered, "All in a day's work, ma'am."
"Yeah, I noticed. Just remember that saving a life takes more than skills and guts. Compassion is what truly makes you great at this job. Having said that, if there were a braver hero than Martial Law, it would definitely be his son."
"Only better, ma'am." Winds diminished and snowflakes floated down like sprinkles on an ice cream cone. For the first time that morning, the sunshine crept through the gray clouds and shone on the woodsy community. Walking through the medical chaos and past the yellow tape, Gina and Owen stared at the accident scene, replaying the daring rescue in their heads. "Well, after what happened this morning, there's no doubt in my mind," said Owen.
"About what?"
asked Gina.
"That we undoubtedly have what it takes to do this job?"
"Nope. I'm never going out to eat with you again." They smiled at each other. They made a great team. Both knew they had what it took to do this job. Gina then wondered how much her parents will freak out after hearing about this latest stunt. Many venturous thrill rides awaited Gina Vasquez and Owen Law during their schooling at the academy, becoming the only two cadets to be tested both on and off campus. Owen continually pursued Gina for a more intimate relationship, but it never went there. However, the bond they shared was unbreakable. They needed each other. Unbeknown to them, angelic forces witnessed their selfless acts defining their spiritual significance. As time went on, saving lives took on a whole new meaning. Destiny. Part 1. Chapter 1. 5 years later, chaos in front of the 52nd Precinct. Detective Gina Vasquez looked troubled as she sat in the squad car, ignoring the mob of hungry reporters pressing against the windows, blocking her view of the dilapidated neighborhood in the Pelham Parkway section of Bronx, New York. Under normal circumstances, Gina would proudly converse with reporters and enlighten them on another successful operation or the closing of a dreadful case. But on this day, Gina's life had taken a turn for the worse. Instead of driving the squad car, she was handcuffed in the back seat, face spattered with dried blood belonging to her husband, Paul Gutierrez. Jealousy and pride had brought the couple many days of turmoil during their last few years of marriage. Gina's law enforcement career had skyrocketed, while Paul got fired from his high-paying advertisement firm. Arguments became a daily routine, with her job being blamed for their intimacy turning sour. Gina thought of quitting her job just to satisfy him. Had she done so, they would have been in financial ruin. While Gina was hard at work, Paul spent his days sprawled on the couch waiting for nighttime to arrive so he can go and hit the bar scene. Some nights he would drink beer in the basement while watching pornography on his laptop. Lying became a routine for him. Whenever he asked about finding a new job, his answer was rehearsed like a part in the school play. "No one's hiring yet, but I'll look again tomorrow." Although being mistreated and disrespected, Gina refused to file for divorce. She never quitted on anything in her life, even when her odds were at its highest pinnacle. Their vows still meant something to her, and she would stop at nothing to rekindle the magic they once shared, at least what she believed to be magical. Gina would make romantic plans on her days off, movie night, drinks at the lounge, or a quiet candlelight dinner at home. But Paul didn't care. He would dismiss his wife's effort to please him by saying he was too tired from searching the classifieds, quote-unquote. After months of being shut out, Gina got fed up. She started working double shifts to avoid being home. Alex will also take her out on weekends. Paul offered no objections. On this night, however, truth slapped her in the face when she caught Paul in their bed with another woman. She's now facing attempted murder charges and even a 10-year jail sentence. Her colorful law enforcement career had come to an abrupt end. Desperate reporters suctioned their faces against the car windows, begging for a statement. Lights flashed around her like a model in a runway show. Gina dropped her head in guilt, whispering to herself,
"Why didn't I just leave?"
A group of cops ran out from the precinct and cleared a path through the clamoring crowd leading to the squad car. Captain Saxon Davis paraded down the divided trail and climbed into the back seat, sitting next to his arrested officer. Cops surrounded the vehicle as if they were Secret Service, completely blocking out the angry media. Saxon was both sad and angry. Sad to see Gina in such a horrible predicament, but angry because someone she trusted had broken her heart. Saxon and Gina developed a bond shortly after she graduated from the academy. She showed so much promise. His wife, Beverly, treated her like a younger sister. He took Gina under his wing and bestowed all of his knowledge and experience of the job onto her. Thanks to his expert tutelage, Gina moved vastly up the ranks and became a detective within her first 2 years. Critics would complain by saying she's only getting promoted because of her beauty. But unlike those women who strictly use their assets to get by, Gina is much more than just a pretty face.
"I know you're disappointed with me, sir,"
she said, unable to muster the courage to look at her mentor. "Never," said Saxon. "I can only imagine the pain you must be going through. This shouldn't have happened to you. I could think of much lower-class scum who need to be in this seat, including your husband. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Gina."
"I wish to God that I could turn back the clock and change what I've done. It's just I wanted to hurt him as much as he hurt me. I know it was wrong. I kept battling my reasons for doing it, justifying my stance for nearly killing this man. But why didn't I just leave?"
Gina batted her eyes, fighting the tears from flowing down her face. Saxon wrapped his arm around her like a broken-hearted father comforting his child. He wanted to tell her that she'd be going home soon, but she knew he'd be lying. Regardless, he would vouch for her and say she's innocent even if she's dead to right guilty. The precinct doors opened, and Captain Davis escorted Gina into the lobby. Fellow officers fought the press from following them inside. The secretary hesitated to do the booking, thinking this was a sick joke. Sadness sagging down the captain's face told her otherwise. Officer Sylvan Livingston, a good friend of Gina's, volunteered to take her to the holding rooms. Refusing to treat her like a prisoner, he stood by the bench and waited until Gina was ready to move. "This sucks, G," Sylvan whispered as they walked down the hall. "We all agree that two-timing jackass got what he deserved, him and his whore."
"There are far worse crimes a man should be punished for,"
responded Gina.
"Adultery isn't one of them."
"Better than letting him have his cake and eat it too, right? He's gonna be laughing his way to the bank while you're the one who'll be hauled in and out of courtrooms. Maybe suffering a good portion of your life inside a cage. In my opinion, he got off easy. I'm just sorry you didn't get to finish the job. Speaking of which, me and some of the boys were talking. If you ever want us to finish what you started, just say the word and..."
"Don't do anything. I'll take whatever consequences are given to me. Paul may have broken his vow, but so did I. I swore to protect the public from batterers and killers and not to become one."
Nowadays, that's a thin line to cross. None of us know how far we can push the envelope unless someone has the balls to give it a big shove. Good things can't happen by just staying good. Sometimes you got to take the good with the bad, you know?
"You honestly believe that? Disappointing to hear."
Well, we're here for you, in case you change your mind. Sylvan escorted Gina to an empty holding room and held the door open like a doorman. He lowered his hat to hide the anger on his face as she stepped inside. He then placed a cuff key on the desk and gently closed the door. Gina sat in a worn-down chair, alone in quietness. Usually for her, criminals would be the ones sitting in her seat. They would act tough and look at her sideways, while she would use persuasion and persistence to break through the facade. But now, she was the criminal. Chills ran down her spine as visions of the punishment she unleashed on her husband flashed through her mind. She then looked down at her swollen knuckles. Tightly shutting her eyes, Gina struggled to block out the terrible images. Remorse increased by the second. In a whispering whimper, she repeatedly asked herself,
"What have I done?"
Suddenly, the door burst open and Sienna Vasquez entered the room. Dressed in a white pinstripe suit and carrying a leather briefcase, she volunteered to be her daughter's legal counsel. Although retired for several years, Sienna was well respected in the judicial system. Not even the highest-priced attorney that Paul's family could hire would have a prayer in beating her in the courtroom. Gina was shocked to see her mother in lawyer mode. She had always daydreamed of them working together, like using Sienna's contacts to help her put away the boss of a huge crime syndicate. Never in her darkest nightmares did she imagine her mother would be working to prevent her prison sentencing. Sienna lifted her daughter out from the chair and gave her a tight hug. Hearing Gina heavily weeping on her shoulder angered her further. Harmful thoughts crossed her mind on what she would do to Paul if given the chance. But she kept those thoughts to herself, for now.
"How are you, baby?"
she asked. Gina nodded without saying a word.
"That's a dumb question. How else will you be feeling now? And why in God's name do they still got these damn things on your wrists?"
"Because I'm guilty, Mom,"
said Gina.
"Stop saying that."
Sienna snatched the key from the table and unlocked the cuffs.
"Oh, baby, I'll do everything in my power to get you out of here. But God, I hate this. I'm going to need a statement from you to prepare my defense. Are you ready to tell me what happened? Or I could come back if you're not ready to."
"I'm ready, Mom.
Okay, tell me, what did Paul do to you?
It's what he didn't do.
Out with it, mija.
Gina took a deep breath and told her story. Chapter 2.
I was here in the precinct a few hours ago, ready to start my graveyard shift. I was trading stories with Buck and Anastasia about what crazy days we had today. Brickstack House from Homicide walks in and asked if anyone wouldn't mind switching shifts with him because he needed to take the weekend off to take his family to Miami. I offered my shift, and he happily accepted. I figured Paul would be at the bar with his friends. Why not enjoy a quiet night by myself at home? As I drove up to the house, I noticed his car was still in the driveway. He never left. For months, I've been trying to save our marriage, get us back to working together instead of battling against each other. But I wasn't in the mood for his crap tonight. God must have kept him home for a reason, I thought. Maybe this was the opportunity we both needed to sit down and work things out. At least I tried convincing myself of that. I parked around the back of the house and entered through the patio. The television was still on in the living room. A wrinkled blanket and 2 pillows were left on the couch. At first, I figured he spent his night drinking at home instead of the bar. That is, until I saw 2 glasses on the coffee table next to a bottle of champagne. Already, I was pissed. Trying not to think of the worst, convincing myself with coincidental scenarios, I heard loud thumps upstairs, sounding like footsteps. Creaking noises came from the staircase, and there it was. My worst nightmare realized. A woman who stunk of cigarettes, strubbing her flabby ass into my kitchen, wearing my silk robe, Mom. Then I heard Paul's voice shout from upstairs.
Don't take too long, darling.
My blood started to boil. I stared at this woman taking the beer out from my fridge, spinning the cap on the floor. Runny mascara, smudged red lipstick, wild hair, no class. I wanted to pummel that bitch to a pulp. I know what they were doing. I knew what they did. Everything that happened next was out of rage. I lost control. It seemed like a dream until I felt her throat squeezing inside my hands. Her eyes began to bulge, gasping for air. She kicked my shins and dug her nails into my arms, trying to fight me back. I dragged her into the living room and drilled my knee into her stomach. That should have been enough to keep her down, but no. I went overboard. I grabbed a bunch of her stringy hair and punched her face until it bled. I wanted to let her go, but acting strictly on impulse, I rammed her head into the wall. And then I let her go. Staying quiet was no longer a concern for me. I ran up the stairs and kicked open the bedroom door. Clothes and shoes were scattered across the floor. Stained panties hung from the ceiling fan. And Paul was lying naked on the bed with the sheets covering his slut-sniffing penis. He stunk of red wine and cheese. I got closer to the bed, thinking of the worst way to hurt this man. Then I saw my handcuffs lying on the floor. I used it to restrain lawbreakers. Paul was guilty of breaking my heart. It seemed fitting. He turned over with his eyes barely opened.
That was fast, baby.
He flirted with a goofy grin. I was repulsed, embarrassed. I gave my life to this man, and he betrayed me, making love to another woman in my bed. I kicked him over his stomach and drove my knee against his spine while slapping the cuffs on his wrists. He offered no resistance, thinking it was something kinky. This wasn't the first he's been with this woman. No wonder he's been distant from me. A woman like me is too good for him, so he lusted for the first bimbo he could find as weak as him so he could feel important.
Hey, baby,
He said.
don't I always put you in this position?
Why? I stammered. You bastard! How could you? He spun around and looked at me. Terrified, sweat rolled down his groveling face. I grabbed his ankles and yanked him off the bed. He screamed in pain when the back of his head smacked the floor. Handcuffs cut further into his wrists. While he squirmed on the floor, I questioned him like a lawyer would a hostile witness. Was it worth it? Worth breaking my heart? Humiliating my family and friends like this? How could I have allowed myself to stay married to a despicable loser like you? What hurt me the most was how he answered back. I thought he would preach a sermon of lies before begging me for forgiveness. Instead, he spat! That bastard spat in my face! Rational thought left my mind. Nothing but rage remained. Next thing I knew, my pistol was in my hand. I wanted to kill him, but I thought that would be too easy. So I hit him as hard as I could. The more he screamed, the angrier I became, pounding and pounding until his blood squirted in my face. Then I stopped in time for my sanity to return. Mom, I looked down at him, and I swear I didn't recognize him. A mask of blood, busted teeth, bruises the size of candy bars. I screamed and cried at the same time. He didn't move. I thought he was dead until I heard him breathing. Barely. And that's when I called the cops. Why did I do it, Mom? Why?
As Gina wiped her eyes, Sienna fought hard to stay professional, preventing her heartache from turning to vengeance. Paul was never one of her favorite people. Mother's intuition suggested he was a man with hidden agenda. Still, she accepted him into the family because he made her daughter smile. Being an expert strategist, which she's been throughout her law enforcement career, Sienna thought of possible inklings that could get Gina free from this domestic nightmare. Truth be told, she felt uneasy. After hearing this graphic story, there was no clean way to steer this case toward their favor.
What happened when the cops showed up?
She asked.
Devastated? Their hearts sank when they saw me standing over my beaten husband. EMTs carried Paul and the girl out on gurneys attached to breathing devices. Sylvan and the boys stalled for as long as they could before bringing me here for processing.
Have they done it yet? I doubt it. Nobody downstairs wants to book you. They love you. Have too much respect to book you like some common criminal. Not even Saxon knows what to do about this.
He needs to do his job. Book me on whatever charges I'm facing, and I'll accept the consequences. At least my in-laws will be granted a fraction of redemption.
No way. I don't accept that, not one bit.
Acting as my legal counsel, you have to accept whatever plea I wish to enter. It's my choice. And Mom, promise me you're not going to interfere. You or Alex.
What do you mean, interfere? It's my job to prove your innocence. Do you think I would sort to illegal meddling to get you out of doing prison time? You may question my anger as a parent, but don't you dare question my integrity as a legal counsel. I honor that too much.
Mom, just don't. Please. I know you still have some stroke downtown. Probably have a dozen friends in mind who you can call for favors. Not this time. I will take the punishment for my actions just like countless other criminals I've arrested for domestic abuse.
You are not a criminal, mija. Charges may be looming over your head, but you are not a criminal. I don't ever want you to repeat that ridiculous statement ever again.
Gina stayed silent. Sienna shook her head, denying the inevitable.
Based on what you told me, along with Paul's testimony and evidence at the crime scene, I don't see how we can convince a jury that you're the victim. If he had put his hands on you first, then maybe this case would have been closed by now. The most I can do is...
The most you can do is let the law prevail. That's it.
Chapter 3. Alexandra Vasquez, dressed in a gray crossover bodice and matching pencil skirt, paced back and forth in front of the precinct like an angry schoolteacher. Questions barked from the media about her sister's incarceration. In all of her answers, Alex constantly used words like alleged, supposedly, and inconclusive, believing in Gina's innocence.
We don't have the whole story yet. Evidence is inconclusive at this time,
she stated to the press.
but we can assure you that a full investigation will be conducted, and those parties who are responsible for this tragic episode will be brought to justice as soon as possible.
So what you're telling us is that Detective Vasquez may have been framed?
A reporter shouted.
Possibly.
But for a domestic violence charge?
Interjected another reporter.
If sabotage is the key element you're going with, then why wouldn't she be framed for something harsher, like an assassination attempt?
A third reporter added to the brigade of scrutiny.
Besides, how can any person, be it a criminal or an average Joe, go to an officer to attack their spouse in such a brutal fashion, unless there's a hidden agenda involved? I seriously doubt that will be the case.
Alex held her hands up and nodded in agreement with every statement.
Those are all excellent points and will be taken into consideration as we examine this case further,
she answered.
Rest assured, there is a helping of shadiness involved in this case, perhaps a hidden agenda that the alleged victim may concur. For now, I have nothing more to add. Please clear the square and let the NYPD do their job. Excuse me.
After graduating from college, Alex was approached by several intelligence agencies like franchise teams looking to recruit the hot rookie. Ultimately, she fulfilled her long-time desire and joined the FBI. Working as an intelligence analyst for 4 years, she had been inspired by her sister's blossoming career in law enforcement and chose to undergo field training to become a special agent. Abruptly ending her interview to an uproar of unsatisfied news teams, Alex entered the police station and saw her mother waiting in the lobby.
We need to speak to Saxon now,
Sienna stressed.
Gina wants to go with a guilty plea. She can't be serious,
said a dispirited Alex.
This joker's been provoking her for months, and now she just wants him to get off scot-free. I hear you, mija, but she's made up her mind. We got to get Sax involved. Maybe the three of us can put our heads together and plan out what's best for her. I'm not about to lose my baby over some sleazing two-timing freak.
Sienna and Alex zigzagged through lobby personnel and made their way to Captain Davis's office. Although the door was open, they waited for a stressed-out Saxon to get off the phone. Hollering on the other line was Mayor Goldberg, who wanted Gina's trial to be moved to the first thing tomorrow morning.
I've already talked to Commissioner Wood, and he approved the investigation,
said the mayor.
The prosecutor and her staff will be seeing you within the hour, and I want them to have whatever evidence necessary to convict Officer Vasquez as soon as possible. Also, have your officers escort my people to the hospital. They need to interview the husband and the mistress tonight. I want this reported on every news station and printed on the front page of every newspaper in the country by morning. I want the people to have the story on their lips while jammed in the trains and during water cooler conversations.
I can't do that, sir, Saxon rejected. Noticing the Vasquez ladies standing outside, he motioned for them to enter and have a seat. I cannot let Detective Vasquez's fate be used as a public grandstand for ratings and gossip. From your standpoint, wouldn't it be better to delay the trial so that our city could save some money and...
Money? This city will make plenty of money from the backlash this case will generate. As far as spending money, Within the few months I've been in office, do you know how much unnecessary spending I've reduced? Look where we are. This is the greatest city in the world, and I've managed to keep it running strong by putting out less and gaining back more. Thousands of dollars will also be saved once my proposed cutbacks in city funding are approved.
Pensions and overtime wages for officers come largely from city funding. Many civil service departments will be affected, especially the police force. So are you implying that compensation for the men and women who put their lives on the line to preserve the safety of the public is considered a city expense?
You are out of order, Captain. You are in no position to question my decisions. Before I was sworn into office, this city was overrun by the greedy and the wealthy. Now the wealth is under my control. Underground syndicates have been put in their place. And I'm showing New Yorkers that deplorable and inexcusable behavior will not go unpunished. Officer Vasquez falls under that category. The NYPD is a public servant to my city, and their jobs are to protect and serve. That's what they get paid to do. Nothing more, nothing less.
With all due respect, sir, the only thing deplorable is your attitude toward the NYPD. My officers work hard, put their own lives on the line to keep the city safe, to let people walk down the street in the middle of the night without being afraid. How dare you talk about these dedicated officers as if they're a liability? Do you think stopping crime is the same as delivering pizzas? They deserve each dime you're ripping them off with and more. And I would appreciate it if you address Vasquez as detective. I'm damn sure she's earned it.
And you will address me as mayor or your honor. I'm pretty damn sure that I've earned it. Maybe you've gotten used to the loosey-goosey days when an officer can beat the hell out of a drunk driver for resisting arrest. Those days are over, Davis. It's time to restore order. Therefore, every officer must learn that they can't abuse the law for their gratification. Don't interfere with this, Captain. I want total cooperation from you and your officers when my people get there. Because if you don't, your detective will only suffer.
Saxon slammed the phone down on its receiver, infuriated at the mayor's pompous ignorance. Sienna and Alex knew it was more bad news. Saxon told them how Goldberg wanted to handle Gina's case. The ladies were disgusted, to say the least. He wants to use Gina's tragedy for political gain, said Saxon. Bastard. Representatives of City Hall are on their way right now to build their case. Word of this trial will spread across the country like wildfire, and Gina won't stand a chance. What also worries me is how my officers are going to react once they learn about Goldberg's decision.
Let me run a background check on that weasel,
Alex suggested.
I bet I could find a laundry list of crooked acts he's committed. After all, he's a politician. That's not the answer, mija,
said Sienna.
We can't just hand Gina over to this animal on a silver platter. I promised to support her decision to surrender, but I won't let my daughter's life get turned into a dog and pony act. Hell no. We need to think about how to turn this case toward our favor.
Sienna and Captain Davis exchanged ideas on which defense pleas would be most persuasive, while Alex calculated ways to blackmail Goldberg. Then the light bulb turned on. Sienna found a loophole that the prosecutor might overlook. Alex and Captain Davis eagerly listened.
No matter which way we look at it, Gina will be convicted,
Sienna explained.
However, if I can convince the jury that her actions were on the grounds of insanity,
then she'll be released in 18 months.
You want to claim that Gina's crazy?
An outraged Alex asked.
Are you crazy, Mom? No jury would ever believe that a disciplined officer like her had suddenly gone nuts.
But after they are reminded of Gina's hard work and dedication to upholding the law, then we can say she snapped under the pressure. Any hard-working civilian would get angry from knowing their loved ones are taking them for granted. Gina caught her husband cheating. She overreacted. End of story.
I see the angle you want to exploit, Saxon interjected. But it sounds impossible to put such a defense together in only a matter of hours. First off, we don't have enough evidence to prove your statement.
Yes, we do. Her medical records will show that she has no history of mental illness, no criminal record, a registered voter, a 3.5 GPA in college, and she graduated at the top of the class at the police academy.
Well, she shared that spot with Owen Law,
Alex reminded.
I know, mija. Also, her performance history will show no episodes of insubordination or mental breakdown. All of her reviews have been stellar and squeaky clean, and you can vouch for her years of credibility, Sax. Now, if you have a better solution, then I'm all ears. Other than that, I don't see any other way for her to avoid years of incarceration.
Saxon thought long and hard. Is this their only option? Gina will be exposed like an open wound, and the public will pick her apart. However, she's already under a negative light. Will it matter which one is shining on her dismal situation? Either way, her career may be over. Sienna was right. At least she'll have enough years to rebuild her life. Let's do it, said Saxon.
Why don't you two get started with whatever info you can get from here?
Alex said.
I'll get her performance records.
Can someone help us at the bureau?
No.
Do you have friends at Internal Affairs?
No.
Then how are we going to get those records?
Seriously, Mom? Should this even be a subject of concern?
Alex gave a wink and then exited the office. Getting access to undisclosed information was like borrowing books from the library. All she needed was a computer and a plan. This will break protocol if the Bureau ever unveiled her actions, but if it meant getting Gina out of jail, then Alex was willing to take the risk. Good start, Sienna, said Davis. Now what about the prosecutor? They will show every fiber of that crime scene to prove that Gina had fatal intentions.
You're right, and that's precisely what we want.
Saxon looked confused. Wait, you're going for the grounds of insanity, but you want Goldberg's gopher to prove Gina is a killer? How is this going to help or persuade the jury in our favor?
While the prosecutor wastes time explaining the evidence against Gina, I'll be exploiting the focal point to this case, the prior events leading to this assault, which will point out years of her hurt and frustration, how she was pushed over the edge by the despicable acts her husband committed. The police report will state that Paul spat in her face. To some degree, I can say that she was provoked. Once the jury hears all this, I know it'll be just enough for the judge to grant me the insanity plea. Maybe I can't portray my daughter as a saint, but what I can show is human error, something that every juror in that courtroom will have in common with her.
You know Gina would never go for that.
That's why I'm not going to tell her.
Sienna, it's bad enough you're ignoring your daughter's pleas, but you're not even going to tell her about it? She'll never forgive you.
What choice do we have, Sax? With Goldberg involved, he'll never let Gina walk on good behavior unless it came down to a political play. This way, he'll get what he wants, but the blame will fall on his appointed lawyers for not getting the job done.
Saxon took in a deep breath. If we go down this route, Gina's career is finished. Remorse read on Sienna's face. Ruining her daughter's career was never her intention. She leaned over sternly and said,
If that's the case, then at least she'll have the freedom to start a new one.
Chapter 4. The next 18 months of Gina's life felt like a wild roller coaster ride with no brakes. First, it started when the trial started. Mayor Goldberg got what he wanted, and proceedings got underway the very next day. Sienna, Alex, and Captain Davis worked through the night, building a solid defense and collecting evidence proving Gina's stability. Being a master in the courtroom, Sienna wrote a near-perfect opening statement that seemed to steer the emotional jury toward their favor. 2 jurors batted their glossy eyes after hearing the underhanded ongoings in her marriage. After several days of argumentative statements and harsh questions thrown from both sides of the courtroom, Sienna's plan worked to perfection. The judge overpowered the jury and ruled that Gina Vasquez had rooted emotional trauma and suppressed anger issues. She was sentenced to a psychiatric facility for 3 years, up for parole in 18 months. The prosecutor was dumbfounded. Furious that his legal team didn't get the job done, the mayor fired them immediately after the trial. However, using any opening for political gain, the mayor got in front of the cameras and stated,
"The trial was held as an example for anyone, whether it be a law-abiding citizen or a law enforcement officer. Those who choose to defy my authority will suffer the same fate, if not worse. The city of New York is safe under my watch."
Once the trial concluded, Sienna felt remorse for exposing Gina like an open wound. It was an extremely difficult decision to make, but at least she'll be able to hold her daughter within 2 years rather than when they're old women. Sienna packed away her briefcase and swore to never work for the judicial system again. Captain Davis felt awful losing his top detective. His angry fist banged his desk in frustration. Regret, shedding tears as if it was his daughter being taken from him. Besides hurting over Gina's fate, he was disappointed at himself for letting Goldberg win. Beverly Davis was just as upset when she heard the news. She and Gina had a close relationship. Despite their age difference, the two of them would yap it up like they were high school buddies whenever they got together. Saxon broke it to her as gently as possible, but it didn't help. Beverly felt like she lost her best friend.
"That isn't right, Sax,"
Beverly preached.
"She doesn't deserve this. With all the police corruption going on in this city, why would this pencil-neck geek be so hell-bent on convicting one of the finest people we know? Name me one cop in that god-forsaken precinct who cares more about their job than Gina."
"I know, honey," Saxon sighed. "Breaks my heart. But believe it or not, this was the better option. Gina wanted to be sent to jail." Beverly gasped. She's so wrapped in guilt that she's looking to punish herself. "Sorry, Bev. I wish there was something I could say to make you feel better."
"Do you know what will make me feel better?
"What?"
Take a trip down to City Hall and putting Goldberg in his proper place, which is on the receiving end of my foot."
Beverly is a black belt in karate and a fan of MMA. Saxon knew she would make good on her word. However, the idea of both his wife and top officer serving time didn't sound like a great idea, so he talked her out of it. Dwelling on the controversy, Saxon went to talk to his good friend, Police Commissioner Cornelius Wood. 30-year relationship between the two, facing good times and had times together like brothers at arms. "I hate this, Sax," said Wood. "Gina had what it took to make a difference, a major player in this war on crime. Years down the line, I always envision her sitting in the position you and I are both in now. I'm sorry." "If you're so sorry, then why would you side with that weasel?" Saxon questioned. What else can I do, Sax? I had one cop standing over 2 beaten civilians. If I had told Goldie to sit on a hot curling iron, then my neck would have been on the line as well. Maybe the entire organization. It's bad enough cops are being mistreated by these ridiculous cutbacks, so I didn't want to add fuel to the fire. I thought I was doing the right thing, sacrificing the career of one great cop to save hundreds of others. What else was I supposed to do? I see your point. Goldberg, that sniveling coward. How did the city get tricked into electing him as mayor? Do you know he wanted me to take part in his political game? No chance in hell would I ever choose his career over Gina's. I told him no. Either way, he looks like a public hero. Damn. Even if we held auditions, we'll never find another cop like her. I wouldn't say that, my friend. I'm sure one day another will rise and take Vasquez's place. Someone to restore law and order by the book, the way it's supposed to be. Saxon agreed. That being said, don't you think it's time you moved on, Captain? You mean retire, Saxon dismissed. Sorry, my friend. Father Time might be breathing down my neck, but I could still work with the best of them. Oh no, I'm not talking retirement. I mean away from the NYPD. You've done all you can for your precinct. And with Vasquez gone, more work will be piled on your shoulders. You just said no other cop would ever be as good as her. So I say, let them start pulling their weight. Use your abilities when they're needed the most. Up your game to the next level. Have a higher position in law enforcement. You mean state police? Yes. There's an opening for assistant district superintendent. With your qualifications and experience, I think you'd be perfect for the job. A new class of policemen who would greatly benefit from watching an officer of your caliber at work. Thanks, Neil, but I think I'll pass. I know I said I'm not ready to retire, but I don't know how long I'll last on that level. Did I forget to mention you'll be working with Governor Dubois instead of Goldberg? You just convinced me. I accept. Also during this time, Alex got promoted to Special Agent for the Cold Case Division, crimes that were never solved. Within her first 3 months on the job, 3 of those cases got closed thanks to her savvy and technological wizardry. Directors took notice as her accomplishments continued to grow. A year later, she became a team leader with 5 agents of her own to command. Lastly, Gina was distressed hearing her mother entered the insanity plea. Even though the law was against her at this point, she wanted to honor the badge by taking whatever punishment suited the crime. She was then transported to a psychiatric prison in Delaware that ran more like a hospital. Mental examinations and psychiatric counseling were given weekly. Talking to a shrink might help her cope with the regret weighing on her heart, she thought. After several months of therapy, she was wrong. Chapter 5. Gina received plenty of visits during her sentence, more than she could ask for. Sienna and Alex would drive down there once a week on the average, endure the long travel just to say hello. Gina was happy to hear about Alex's career advancement and prayed for her to endure further success. However, she felt guilty upon hearing her mother's decision to let her legal eagle fly free.
Don't blame yourself,
Sienna consoled.
I only came back to make sure you wouldn't waste your life in a prison cell because of a waste of life your husband turned out to be.
Mom, please.
Gina pleaded.
Sorry, baby, but I got to speak my mind. Don't ask me to feel any type of sympathy for that man, knowing all the strings I pulled couldn't set you free. I just feel like I failed you.
Never, Mom.
Let me finish, sweetie. Any normal person would have been convicted, being right or wrong or whatnot. But I manipulated the court into thinking you were a prisoner of the moment, a victim of circumstance. Even though I would do it again for anyone in my family, I refuse to pull such a stunt for anyone else, ever. And that's why I'm done with the law.
Guess Paul killed 2 careers that night.
That's not all that's been killed.
Alex chimed in. Gina gave an awkward stare.
Let's just say I made sure those divorce papers got processed immediately. Practically overnight. No forgery, in case you're wondering. I met with Paul's lawyers and they were very cooperative. With a little persuasion. You're a free woman. You can thank me now.
Gina sighed.
I don't know whether to scold you or thank you.
She leaned over the table and hugged her little sister, nearly knocking her glasses off her face.
I'm sorry for putting you out there like that,
Sienna said.
I hope you can learn to forgive me.
I already have,
said Gina.
I understand why you did it. Now that I've been given time to reflect, I'm very grateful that you did. Sometimes a child thinks they have all the answers, but forget that their parents have already been down that road they're traveling. Thank you for giving me another shot at life. I love you, Mom.
I love you too, mija.
Captain Davis was next on the frequent visitors list. Beverly accompanied him on the first few trips, but the sight of Gina in a hideous red-orange jumpsuit broke her heart. She couldn't bear going back anymore. Instead, she put her emotions on paper and wouldn't wait for Saxon's next outing before mailing it. Understanding her reason to not return, Gina read every letter Beverly wrote more than once. With a big smile on her face, Gina looked up at Saxon and said,
State police, huh? Good for you, sir. They could use someone like you to whip that department into shape. Bunch of rookies can learn from your wisdom as I did.
Thanks, Vasquez, said Saxon modestly. Just hope those officers are as eager to learn as you were.
If they're not, lock them in the dojo with Bev for about an hour. She'll knock some sense into them.
Saxon laughed.
Her lessons did a number on me when I asked for help in self-defense. I was always a tough chick, but damn, she turned me into the ultimate fighter.
I remember, Saxon giggled. She wanted to make sure you can open up a can of whoop-ass on males just as much as females. Never has she invested so much of her time in an officer as she did with you. She loves you as much as our own kids.
And I've proclaimed many times that she's my mother in the field.
Gina laughed.
Has she started her mixed martial arts classes yet?
I don't think she's going to for a while. Saxon's face suddenly dropped. Quiet as kept. Beverly hasn't been feeling well lately. She's not as spunky as she used to be. I noticed a change in her before your trial. But now, the signs have been clear after your conviction. We've gone to the hospital a few times, but the doctors can't pinpoint what's wrong. She's optimistic, though. I wish I could share her positivity.
You, of all people, should know Bev is a fighter. There's not an illness in the world she'll submit to. But I believe she'll only get stronger with your undivided support, even if it's forced. Sometimes, when a thunderstorm is pounding on your window, a vision of a sunny day can make her smile. Unless, of course, there's more to her condition that you're not telling me.
No, nothing like that. I just hate dwelling in the unknown, sitting around helpless and confused. I want back the Beverly we all know and love. I need her.
Sir? So do I, sir.
Officer Sylvan Livingston visited one day. Accompanying him was John Hart, an officer he met soon after Gina's arrest. John was a naive cop who was motivated to expose Goldberg's unfair treatment towards officers. He even built a webpage that catered to civilians and officers alike, whoever was willing to take a stand against political injustice. We're going to rally against City Hall, said Sylvan. He's trying to turn our city into a cash cow just to make him and his political sellouts richer, stuffing their pockets with our hard-earned dollars. Pensions are being cut, medical insurance reduced. This can't go on. And it all starts with your trial. With your involvement, we can get every cop in the city to join us and take that son of a bitch down. Just say you'll back us up and...
Back what up?
Asked Gina doubtfully.
You plan to form a regime against City Hall? That sounds ludicrous. Besides, my life has become too much of a spectacle already. I'm done with the lights and the cameras. Count me out.
And whose fault is that?
Mine. I made a bad decision, and now I'm paying for it. That's it. Now, if this is the only reason for your visit, then you need to go. You know I love you, Sil, but I don't want to hear this right now.
Detective Vasquez, John Hart injected.
I'm not a detective anymore.
Gina rudely interrupted.
But you're still one to us. I know all about you, Gina. Who you are and what Goldberg has made you become. Your case was a grave injustice, handled insensitively by a corporate clown whose sole motivation is personal gratification. With that, he's made my departments in the city look like crap because of it. So if the constituents won't vote him out, then he must be overthrown by us. Now, I've been networking with several officers across the city. If we could come together as one voice, then the mayor will have no choice but to listen.
So that's your answer. Marching down Broadway while holding up big signs demanding for the mayor to resign. Newsflash, rallies don't work anymore. You have a better chance of ranting about him on social media to get citywide attention. People will care then. By the way, if you've truly been following my case, then you would have realized that I wanted to serve time. As far as your network goes, you're officers, not college kids. Do your damn jobs and protect the innocent.
Gina walked away without saying goodbye. Sylvan and John left the facility disappointed. However, they decided to carry on their protest as planned. Veronica Silverblaze, deputy of Eagle's Nest, New Mexico, and Gina's closest friend, made a surprise visit. Just recently, Alex reached out to her about the unfortunate series of events. Perhaps a new face may bring some light to her dismal days. Even though Gina was quite the looker, especially to the eyes of Owen Law, Veronica looked as if she jumped off the pages of Vogue magazine. Her long brown hair with blonde highlights draped past her shoulders. Brazilian facial features made people gawk at her like a celebrity. Although not as athletically fit as Gina, her tones and curves stood out in the right areas. Besides being a skillful officer, two ingredients made Veronica a deadly adversary to criminals: her sassy attitude and the fact she was a knife-throwing marksman. She can throw any blade under the windiest conditions and still hit her target dead center every time. Gina was so happy to see her longtime friend. They hugged for several minutes without uttering a word. Other than her parents, there are 3 people in this world that Gina would put her life on hold to help: Alex, Owen, and Veronica. Although cordial while attending Lehman High School together, Gina and Veronica's friendship blossomed once they both joined the police academy. Latinas Azules, a cute nickname that cemented their law enforcement sisterhood. Veronica was the hothead of the duo, the cowboy who ran out with both guns blazing. Gina was the level-headed one, remaining calm under the most strenuous situations. Although both ladies were outstanding on the field, Veronica learned from Gina how to think things through and use excessive force as a last resort. Having enough of dealing with seasonal frigid temperatures, Veronica moved out west after graduation. During a brief stint in San Francisco, she fell in love with the city of Albuquerque after flying out there to attend a friend's wedding. The feeling of comfort, security, and a laid-back lifestyle filled her heart. Months later, New Mexico became her home. Finally letting each other go, the ladies exchanged pleasantries while wiping the tears from their eyes. Veronica also added a wisecrack on how Gina's red hair and reddish jumpsuit made her look like a cherry popsicle. Gina popped so loud with laughter that the other visitors in the room jumped as if a bomb exploded. At that moment, Dr. Richard Hahn, Gina's psychiatrist, approached her with more good news. Due to her miraculous progress, Dr. Hahn had granted her access outside of the institution. Little did he know that Gina had been perfectly sane the whole time. Buried in depression is what's preventing her from returning to normal behavior. Gina and Veronica walked through the courtyard as if they were strolling through the park on a Sunday afternoon. Nurses engaged with their patients either through pleasant conversation or performing exercises to stabilize their minds. Other patients, however, showed their psychological handicap. Restrained to a wheelchair while wildly rocking like a fan at a heavy metal concert, running around the yard screaming as nurses and guards gave chase, or even standing like a statue while staring off into space. Gina sat up against a tree while Veronica sat on the grass into the crisscross applesauce position.
Never thought in a million years that I'll ever see you in a place like this,
said Veronica. It baffled her to see her best friend in such a psychotic environment.
I'm not crazy, Ronnie,
Gina explained.
At times, I admit, I do find myself searching for a reason to live, but not with suicidal tendencies or anything to that effect. Guilty of depression? Yes. But I'm not crazy. This was the result of my mom's desperate attempt to keep me out of jail.
And for what? Because that jerk thought a quickie was more important than honoring the finest damn woman I've ever known in my lifetime? Should have pounded his teeth out when I had the chance.
This goes back to a time shortly before Veronica moved out west. For Gina's birthday, Veronica had planned a girls' night out. Paul, on the other hand, had planned a night of his own. Candlelight dinner and drinks at home. Even Alex liked the party idea because she wanted Gina to have a good time with her friends as well. Veronica tried to explain this to Paul, but his ego wouldn't allow him to listen, feeling insulted. The two got into a huge argument with Paul saying very hurtful things, referring to Veronica as a flirty woman who was easy with a price. Once word got back to Gina, she wanted to break up with Paul after breaking his face. But Paul begged, pleaded, and even cried for a second chance. He walked on his hands and knees and promised her the world. He even pouted out a warm apology to Veronica, making sure his woman was there to witness it, of course. With the heart of gold she has, he was forgiven.
You warned me about him,
Gina regretfully admitted.
There's something about those car salesman types that rub me the wrong way, you know. That guy's got more lives than a cat, especially after calling me a slut. But not even I could have predicted he would sink so low.
The day he called you that should have wised me up to who he was. Being in love makes you do stupid things, I guess. I thought he would change, but...
Did he ever try hitting on you? Hell no. I would have broken both of his arms if he did. Imagine how your wedding photos would have looked. You all glamorous in your beautiful white dress, and him looking sorry with a black eye and both of his arms in slings.
Gina giggled and added,
Girl, there wouldn't have been a wedding. We would have double-teamed his ass South Bronx style.
Veronica leaned over and gave Gina a high five as they laughed like high school girls at recess. Then the gleefulness died down as ongoing rants from the yard reminded them where they were.
I should have been there. I should have been there like all those times you were there for me,
Veronica said.
You got your own life to worry about,
said Gina.
Besides, I don't remember you ever getting into trouble like this.
Excuse me? What about the time when we ran that obstacle course and I pounced our instructor into the mud because he said I was too girly to be tough? Remember that?
Gina held in her laughter.
They could have kicked me out of the academy for that. But what did you do? You remember, don't you?
Yes.
Gina giggled.
I told him I slipped coming down the wall and bumped into you by accident.
And since he thought so highly of you, the incident got dismissed. That jerk. And how about that time we snuck off to that nightclub with Owen and Shane?
Gina facepalmed.
Shane got a little loose with the hands and put them on me.
Veronica chuckled.
And then you clocked that fool in his eye.
Gina giggled.
He stumbled around the dance floor like Fred Sanford saying, "Oh, my eye! Oh, my eye!"
Howling with laughter, Veronica rolled back on the grass while drool hung from Gina's lip from her silent laughter. Red faces and cramped stomachs showed that none of them could breathe. Patients looked at them as if they were the crazy ones. Minutes were needed to calm down before they started talking again.
How did you resolve that situation? You worked up a miracle on his face using my makeup. Nobody on campus had the slightest idea Shane's eyes was black and blue.
Yeah, I pulled that one out of my butt,
Gina said.
The next day he thanked me and apologized to you.
If word got around that we snuck off campus that night, none of us would have graduated. You prevented that from happening. Come to think of it, you saved my career.
I wouldn't go that far.
Damn! I wish I was there for you, Gina. I feel like I owe you so much.
How can you have known, Ronnie? It's not like I planned this thing. Raw emotion. I was a prisoner of the moment. Haunts me every night. In the academy, they teach you everything there is to know about being a cop except how to live with a mistake. If I had a wish, it would be for God to rewind time.
You're a good person, Gina. Warm-hearted. Everybody knows it. They still see it, but you have to see it too.
Gina slightly nodded, not fully convinced.
Have you thought about what's next after you get out of this place?
Nope. One thing I won't do is go back home. Hate to desert my family, but too much pain is left back there, and I don't want to be reminded of it. I want to just get away and start over, you know.
Veronica's eyes lit up.
Boy, do I have an idea,
She said.
The sheriff in my station is retiring next year. Should be happening right around the time you get released. Why don't you move out to New Mexico? Work with me. I'm sure I could get you the job. You can stay at my house until you get to know the area. The other deputies will love you as much as I do. What do you think?
Why don't you go for the job yourself?
Gina questioned.
I could do that, but we both know that you're a natural leader. Besides, I need you to keep me in line when that old cowgirl in me urges to come out and play. Hey, I can't think of a better place for you to start over.
Gina wasn't sure about going back to law enforcement. However, a smaller city might be what she needed. Less chaos, quieter, private.
Let me think about it, okay?
Gina responded. Months later, Gina got a visit from another close friend, Owen Law. Now a detective for the Beverly Hills Police Department, Owen had become a local sensation from his hot dog shenanigans viewed on news outlets and social media networks. A real-life action star is how the people describe him. An ink spot on their linen white city is what city officials refer to him as. Pressure has been put on the department to have him fired. At first, Gina was reluctant to see him, embarrassed. She didn't want Owen, of all people, to see her smothered in the stench of incarceration. Also, she wasn't too thrilled to hear another voice of reason. But to her delight, Owen said he just wanted to see her gorgeous face.
Are you kidding?
Gina rejected.
I can't remember the last time I exemplified anything gorgeous. And even if I wanted to throw some makeup on my face, they won't give me anything sharp or toxic.
You can throw mud on your face for all I care, said Owen. I'll still say you're the classiest woman in the room. Any room. Why do you think I used to ransack your room at 6 in the morning to drag you to class? I wanted you to be the first person I saw. So no matter how good or bad my day was going to be, I'll be smiling.
Morning breath and all, huh?
Yup. Even when your hair was sticking up like the Bride of Frankenstein. In your case, I'll say Carrot Top. Ronald McDonald. You can stop me when you're ready. Gina's cackle echoed through the cafeteria. Other inmates shivered and turned around as if she got shot with a gun. Veronica made her feel better before, but only Owen could make her feel brand new. He was special to her. More than a friend, but close like a brother. Owen went to Gina's wedding for 2 reasons. Alex needed a date, and he wanted to support his true love on her big day. But he always hated Paul for stealing his dream. He hates him even more now. Whereas Sylvan offered to finish the job, Owen won't bother to ask. It'll be curtains for his career if he caught Paul wandering the streets. While disappointingly accepting a role in Gina's life as the good friend, Owen enjoyed being a single man, dated several women, came and went as he pleased, and he had no responsibilities except his own. But he would give all of it up at the drop of a dime to be with Gina. He knows she loves him as much as he loves her. It's her fear of loss that keeps them stagnant in the friendship zone. Paul is a loser, Owen said. In my opinion, he got what he deserved.
I know you don't mean that,
Gina disappointingly stated. Owen thought about his statement. So maybe the pistol whipping was a bit excessive, a little sloppy for my taste, but you can't blame yourself for that.
Who else can I blame? I controlled that whole situation, and I chose to go down the violent path. Going to my mother's house to cool off would have worked, too. The next day, I would have yelled every dirty thing I could think of at him before throwing his ass out of my house. Right now, as I think about it, I still want to drive my fist through his face.
I'll do it for you. Give me his address.
No.
Please.
Don't do anything. Just stay with me, alright?
Owen pressed his hands into a ball around Gina's cold fingers. She took a deep breath, letting her emotions get the better of her again. Thank God she has people who will ride or die with her.
I tried so hard to make it work,
she stressed.
I should have known he was just a freeloading know-it-all who only cared about himself.
You forget, selfish, lazy, and ungrateful, Owen continued. Gina stared at him with a slight curl on one end of her lips, which said that she got the point. Owen fanned his hand. Enough of that, jackass. I want all my attention focused on you, Gina Vasquez, nothing else.
Take a good look. This is what's left of me now.
Second chances have been given to people who've committed far more treacherous acts. Makes me sick to my stomach to think about which of those people get one. Why should you be any different? You still have so much to offer. Great things left undone in this world. Don't give up on life when it hasn't given up on you. Why? Because you're still alive. Remember, things could have gone a lot worse. Gina smiled and kissed Owen on the cheek.
Thanks, O,
she said.
You always know what to say to me at the time I need to hear it.
And I'll always do so, for as long as you need me to. After the 18th-month period, Gina had been released early for good behavior. Family and friends were overjoyed to have her back home. However, the happiness didn't last long. Dismay filled the Vasquez household upon hearing her decision to accept Veronica's offer to move to New Mexico. She thanked her mother for giving her a second chance. Sienna couldn't stand to see her daughter leave again, but understood that she needed to find her own way of healing.
This will always be your home,
she said.
Come back wherever you're ready. I love you, mija.
Raul, fueled on old-school machismo, thought it was wimpy to cry in front of women. He gave his best wishes and a kiss on her forehead, but didn't stick around to see Gina's departure. He waited until he was alone in his room to let the salty water run from his eyes and down his seasoned face. Gina called Saxon Davis and broke the news to him and Beverly. They invited her over for lunch, but she rejected, knowing it would make things harder. Besides hearing them trying to convince her to stay, seeing Beverly's saddened face after learning about her ailing condition would have drowned her in further guilt. She told Saxon it was an honor to work with him. "The honor was mine," he replied. "God bless you, Gina. I'll see you soon." Alex took it the hardest, though. Her sister and best friend was going away again. While driving Gina to the airport, Alex thought of every scenario to change her mind, but none of them worked. Arriving at the passenger drop-off lane in front of LaGuardia Airport, Gina stalled to get out of the car.
Here we are,
she said. Alex's eyes began to water.
Don't start, Al, you hear me? Don't start.
But she couldn't help it. Alex wept like a child who just spilled their ice cream on the street. Gina wiped her own eyes to stop her tears from falling, tightening her face from frowning. They both hugged each other.
I love you,
Gina repeated.
Please don't leave,
Alex pleaded.
I have to, Allie.
Why? Whatever pain you're feeling, we can get through it together. When you're hurt, I'm hurt. Can't you see that? Please stay.
I can't. You, Mommy, and Daddy mean everything to me. You are my world. But there's no life for me here. In New Mexico, I could still do some good. Redeem some of the old me that's left, you know? Be strong for me, please. The family will need you to be. I promise to call every day and come back to visit when I can. Maybe I could get a transfer and join the bureau in California. I would love that. But Mommy and Daddy need you here. Besides, you're becoming a major player in your department. How could I ask you to give all that up for me?
Why don't you ask me?
Listen, you need to hold everyone together, okay? I know that's selfish of me to ask, but a fresh start, I believe, is what's best for me now. Don't worry, I'll be fine. This isn't the end, just a minor setback, okay?
Okay. I hope God watches over you, since I can't. Although, technically I can. Just need to hack into some satellite feeds and watch every move you make.
Gina laughed.
Thank you, but I'll be fine. Take care, Alex.
Gina gave her sister one last hug and got out of the car. She couldn't look back. Hearing her sister sniffling made it harder to take another step. She wanted to go back home, but she couldn't. It was an act of faith, giving up everything in hopes that her sorrow will disappear. Alex wept as her big sister walked through the terminal doors. Gina was starting a new life to replace the old, leaving behind an unfaithful husband and a dead career. Little did she know that after this day, her life will change forever.